Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, I can.
So I'm trying to get the audio to come through my headphones, and I hope that it's not going to be a problem with like my desktop speakers bleeding into the mic.
It's normally not a problem. I'll let you know, but right now I can't hear you.
There we go.
Okay.
Or I should say I can't hear an echo. Sorry about that.
My camera is not coming in. What's going on there?
Audio's coming in good.
Let's see.
Oh, and then
Boom. There we go.
Excellent. I can see you as well, Matthew. Dustin,
Thank
if you're able to, is it possible? It's not a big deal or anything, but if you can, tilt up your camera just a little bit, because there you go. So that way it's so that basically so it doesn't have your face at the bottom of like where it's.
I tend to lean in like this when I talk into the mic, so maybe I can just hold the mic like this, like.
I think you have a different mic selected because we can barely hear you.
Yeah.
I can't hear you. No, I can't hear you at all.
Is my
What's
audio
up,
good?
Jordan?
Hey, man, I'm excited. Let's get them.
How's it going, TJump?
All right.
Oh,
Coming through. Audio is good from Jordan and Matthew and TJump. And then,
Matt,
don't worry, Dustin, this is normal. We'll get through it.
you got to do a
Yes.
clink, my brother.
But we
Sorry,
still
James.
can't hear you, Dustin. I think that it might still be like a different mic that was selected. Like, I think, yeah, I can't hear you at all. Like, not even 1%. It's fully muted.
Dustin, if you're here, where you can hear us, if you're looking at the bottom corner, it should say mute. You should be able to click that, and then there'll be like a set of different microphones and speakers. I don't know if yours is branded to where you'll be able to notice it or not, but you might just have to adjust through those that are available.
Testing.
I can kind of hear you.
I hear someone say testing. Was that you?
Testing.
Yeah, we can hear you, Dustin, but it definitely, I think that TJump's right, that there might be maybe a microphone that's not properly selected. It might be a different microphone.
I don't have another microphone. I have one microphone.
Are you using a laptop?
No, that's
Oh,
Do you have the input volume on the microphone itself turned all the way up, like in your system and the microphone itself?
Were you not hearing me earlier?
I think it was better than this right now.
yeah.
Nothing's changed. I didn't change anything.
Move the mic close to your mouth and say something, then move it really far away and say something.
Yeah, but when I moved it closer, that's when you said that you.
Now move it far away and say something. Now,
I'm saying something.
yeah, so it makes zero difference where the mic is, which means it has to be using a different mic.
Yeah, like I say, man, if you just click that bottom button on there where it says mute, click the arrow, and there'll be like maybe different microphones in there. Microphone options.
Whoa.
Yeah,
sounded better.
that was loud.
Yeah.
Testing.
That's better.
I think it's better. It's certainly better the first time. Can you keep speaking, Dustin?
It's saying that I'm using my microphone
That's good.
from the webcam, but
That sounds
but
better.
sounds
I have
better.
a desktop mic that I've been using for 2 years. I've never had a problem.
All right, move the mic
Yeah.
away from your mouth and say something again.
Testing?
Yeah, still the same.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Good
that's
enough.
I
much
think
louder.
it's not, I don't think it's, my guess is it wasn't that your mic wasn't working. My guess is, are you sure you didn't have a different one selected? Are you sure you didn't have a different one selected?
I have my desktop mic, which is here. It's pretty cheap, but it's always worked for 2 years. And then I have another option for my webcam mic. So my webcam looks like it has little holes in it. I guess that my audio is going through the webcam, but
It's much clearer.
I've never used that before. So I guess we can keep it with the webcam audio.
I would
But-
definitely do that.
Yeah, because in the event that like we are in a high intense conversation, we definitely want to hear you, and hear your input.
How strong is the audio? Like, can you actually
You
hear
sound
it? Or
normal. You sound just
You
normal.
sound good, man.
Okay, it's fine.
It's actually even like slightly too loud, but it's good.
Okay,
Don't change it. Actually, just leave
we'll
it. It's
do it
not too loud.
live. Let's do it live.
You mean like?
The Bill O'Reilly reference.
Oh, okay. Oh,
We're fine. We can
yeah.
just-
The F. Yeah, the F word video. I remember that. Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Is cursing acceptable, or do you prefer no cursing?
It makes no difference to me as long as it doesn't violate YouTube terms of service. We're fine.
Okay, I just thought that you guys get demonetized if that stuff.
I think their new terms say something about not using curse words in like the first 30 seconds, but that'll be all you, James. So
That's
Yeah,
funny.
okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
heard they had an update. Anyway, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to quick start the stream just to see that the connection is good. Actually, let me just start recording first because sometimes the encoder is weird and seems like the first one is usually where it gets weird. But anyway, glad to have you guys here. What we'll do is Polytheist, if you guys want to go first, this is the first time we've had a polytheism debate, at least as far as I remember. So if you guys are up for going first, would love to have you go first, and then we'll have TJump and Dustin follow with their opening, and that'll of course be 12 minutes per team, so roughly 6 minutes per person. Does that work for everybody?
yeah. My intro's super short.
Cool.
yeah, it works.
I'll
James.
just talk. I'll talk fast.
Let me get some of that protein shake, James.
That's funny. Hold on one sec. My screen just went blank. I don't know what's going on. Oh, there
James,
it is.
how swole are you?
Not swole at all, but I am a little bit alarmed. Hold on. Oh, wait. Okay. Sorry, I pushed the wrong button.
His
Okay,
arms are
let's
about as thick as inspiring philosophy. So
Oh, geez.
Oh, you want to have our own boxing event?
Damn.
yes, we should do that. We should start a YouTube boxing event.
It's so debate, then we fight, debate, then we fight, like in rounds.
Is that what we're doing? I
No.
wasn't sure what I wasn't sure what open discussion meant, or
So no.
We're debating the terms of the debate right now.
is
We're
it
actually
like
debating
cross
the debate.
examination, or are we just gonna have a free for all where like we just talk?
Just open dialogue. Like, have you watched Modern Day Debate before? But it's okay. I'm teasing you. Just open dialogue.
Okay.
No, it's good to meet everyone here. I guess, do you want to introduce ourselves to each other so we have like an inkling?
I'm ready to
That's a good
start.
idea.
Are we?
Yeah, I'm just ready.
I mean,
whenever.
like
to
off
go.
stream. What it would be good right now if you guys want to do that, because once the debaters, like the audience, usually what we do is we say, I'll go on in about 60 seconds and I say, hey everybody, today we're debating atheism versus polytheism, and we're starting right now. And I'll say, with the polytheists, thanks for being with us, Mathew and Jordan. The floor is all yours. And then once I say that, Mathew and Jordan, who would like to go first between you two?
Mathew.
I'm gonna go first.
Cool. And then once you guys are done, I'll kick it over to TJump and Dustin. And it's I'd say, Dustin, you're with how good your audio is, if you're able to back up just a little bit from the camera, it's just that it's kind of like this right now. And so if it's just backed up a little bit more, it's a little bit easier for me to report, like kind of fit it.
Okay.
You're like a floating head.
Just even maybe a little bit more. So like you notice how like
Would you? Well,
so
I mean, I
you
can
notice,
just back my chair up.
yeah, like that's one way you could do it.
Here it's just too big. It just covers the entire screen. Can't see anything.
Nice beard, man.
Okay. So let me see if I can just move my monitor back a few inches.
Either way, it's not a big deal.
We can be beer bros even after the show, man.
Yeah.
James, you're still in the club, man.
I appreciate
Okay, what about
that.
now?
It's basically the exact same, but that's okay. So I appreciate the effort. What we'll do is like, you know how if you back up your chair, it'll catch more of like your,
Yeah, we're looking for more of your profile, like a mug shot.
like let's say to the
Yeah,
bottom
yeah,
of your
yeah.
sternum.
But,
There you go.
but you
That's
asked me to
close.
tilt my camera up.
Right. Originally I did that or
What about now?
Perfect. You're right. I should have said tilt your camera down. I did get that wrong. Sorry about that.
Okay. Let's go.
We're good. So perfect. All right. Thanks so much. With that, I'm going to quick do that cold open, and then I'll kick it over to you, Matthew and Jordan. And let me just do this last little thing. All right, cool. 3, 2, 1, here we go. Hey, everybody. Tonight we're debating atheism versus polytheism, and we are starting right now with our polytheist guests. Matthew, thanks for being with us. The floor is all yours.
Hey, everybody. Hopefully everybody's coming in. They're going to enjoy a great show. Tonight we're debating what James just said, and I'm going to start us off. Quote, unquote, believing what makes you happy is more important than believing what's true about reality. And you should only focus on reality if that's what's important to you, unquote. That's TJump baiting Aaron Raw on April 25th of this year on a debate regarding does religion do more harm than good, in which TJump took the side of no, religion does more good than harm. Which leads me to question why he's typically so uptight in regards to religion, when generally speaking, it seems to be assisting people in happiness far more than not. This isn't to attack the character of TJump, except to say that I hope this debate can be handled in a civilized manner without ad homs. Today's argument may seem to contain a lot of what may be considered quote-unquote woo-woo magic. To many, that's fair. But allow Jordan and I to define where we're coming from, why, and how one might prepare these human minds of ours in a way as to grasp the, and I quote, knowledge of the universe, on how it could be perceived by mankind. I'm sure, or at least it's very possible, that the hows, as in how do we come to these conclusions, or how do we practice our beliefs, may come into question, but I think that those are far less important in their pertinence on today's debate, as opposed to the truth that the energies, the gods and goddesses, according to definition and reasoning for having them. I don't mind going into the historicity of religion, the roots, and why it's always been there, but again, I'd rather remain on how the gods and goddesses are defined, their meanings, and the importance of them in accordance to humanity. With that, I'd like to pass it off to Jordan and allow him to be the human thesaurus to bundle these things into mentally soluble definitions in which I hope may set the narrative to come.
Thank you, Matthew.
Absolutely, man.
As we gather here today to explore the topic of polytheism versus atheism, I'd invite you to consider the fundamental human inclination towards exploring the mundane world and our place in it. From the earliest days of our existence, we have looked to nature and its characteristics, and we have applied introspection, reasoning, and logic to understand what is possible in our world. We have conceived of virtues and traits that transcend physical values, such as beauty, love, wisdom, and courage. These ideals are often associated with phenomena like gentle rains or angry seas. We may even attribute them to our own experience of good or bad fortune, luck, etc. It is in this context that we may see the personifications of these traits and their embodiment in the form of gods, beings of high virtue and characteristics that embody the essence of our ideals and our speculative minds. These gods serve as examples of higher goals and aspirations that we strive to achieve in our place within the world. So let us engage in a thought-provoking debate on the existence of multiple deities and their role in shaping our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that opening statement. We're going to kick it over to our atheist team as well. But before we do that, want to say, folks, if this is your first time here at Modern Day Debate, we are a neutral debate platform hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. We hope you feel welcome no matter what walk of life you are from. And if you didn't know, Modern Day Debate is also on podcast. So if you haven't yet, look us up on your favorite podcast right now, and then you can listen to debates on the go. With that, we're going to kick it over to TJump and Dustin. Thank you very much, gentlemen. The floor is all yours.
I didn't hear any evidence in their opening, so I don't really know what exactly I'm supposed to respond with. So just, the atheist position is, as far as I'm concerned, the material physical world is all there is. There's no space minds, no minds outside of the universe, no minds that create anything. I don't really know what kind of polytheism either of them are advocating for, because they didn't actually say anything in their opening to indicate what exactly it is that their claim is, which is kind of the point of the opening. You're supposed to tell us what the positive claim is so we can know what we're trying to refute there. So I really don't really know exactly what to respond with here, other than evidence is novel testable predictions. Until you can provide novel testable predictions that can show that your belief is more than just something made up in your imagination, then the default is it's just something made up in your imagination, just like everybody else. So I will wait for evidence and concede there.
You got it, Dustin. The floor is yours.
Oh gosh, it's on me already. So what's up, everybody? This is my first debate. I have some things written here. TJump kind of already summarized some of it. And well, nobody knows who I am, so I'll just start off with that. And cut me off whenever you want to, James. So I'm sort of like a soft atheist and an anti-theist, coming out strong here. I think that deism may be possible. I don't care if it's true or not. The concepts of theism is, obviously more important to debate because they're supposed to have influence on people's lives. And I believe that the belief in God and gods is a delusion. And just the, casual definition would be something a person believes and wants to be true when it is actually not true. So there's not like any kind of a pejorative meaning to that. I just kind of state it factually. And to me, belief in fairies and unicorns would be the same as belief in Odin or angels or spirits. And it's literally the same as a belief in a god. And I don't say this to mock or ridicule. I literally mean this. And I think that you just have no more evidence for your god or gods than I have that a pot of gold is at the end of a rainbow. And again, if you provide the evidence, then I'll be happy to look at it. And the idea that like theists typically seem to have this idea, or like it's expressed, that maybe they're not like intentionally doing it, but it seems as if they have this idea that they're somehow special and that they have some sort of a personal relationship with like a creator or something along these lines. And that just doesn't do it for me. I don't know. It just seems a little strange, especially whenever they never have any evidence. And as for polytheists, the past 3 days I've been looking on YouTube for polytheistic debates. And so far it seems as if it's sort of a watered down form of monotheism, which I guess is a little bit better. I mean, I can at least extend the olive branch in that regard. They're not like very dogmatic about their beliefs and things like this. And so let's see here. The polytheism, what I gathered so far about the polytheism is that over 4 hours of watching these like quote debates, not one single truth claim was made. I was waiting for a truth claim, the same as TJump mentioned. The opening statements, nothing was mentioned at all about why it's true. They only want to talk about what they believe and how their belief is special and how it differentiates between other polytheistic and monotheistic beliefs, as if that somehow means anything. And I really hope that we can get down to like the nuts and bolts of very direct questions, state a truth proposition, and then state what evidence or reasoning you have to believe that this truth proposition is real. And so far, I haven't gotten anything like that from any polytheist, except for one by the name of Ocean, Keltoy perhaps. And even he was basically not taking any hard stances on his beliefs. Basically, heaven and hell may or may not exist. Multiple heavens may or may not exist. And maybe there's even every human is given their own personal form of heaven. And so if your God dictates for you to do self-harm, you just simply reject your God and you find another. And basically, whenever Vosh pressured Ocean in their debate, he basically said, well, in order to give a reason as to why I believe Zeus is a actual disembodied mind, it would take an entirely new conversation, and I would need to touch upon the highest echelons of philosophy. And so I would just end by saying, if your best argument is that the greatest philosophers are debating this very concept at this time to this day for the past 2,000 years, the obvious conclusions to me are that they might not be the greatest minds, or that the evidence for the truth claim that a God exists is severely lacking, or in my opinion, completely non-existent. And a lot of this polytheism is sort of like, it feels to me like it's a little bit of window shopping. It's more of a belief in belief. Like I like the culture and the practices, therefore I worship and practice devotion to the universe. I feel in touch with the universe, a way to express spirituality with the greatness of the cosmos. And it's not like they actually believe that Zeus exists or Odin exists. But I don't know if you guys actually believe these things, or you believe different gods. I don't think you mentioned which gods you believe in. And from there, I think that we can just start the open discussion. And thanks again for, allowing me this opportunity for my first debate.
You got it. Thank you very much. We'll jump into the open dialogue. Do want to let you know, folks, we are live right now. So if you happen to have a question for the Q&A, which will follow the open dialogue, you have two options. One is if you @ me at Modern Day Debate in the live chat. That's one way to ask your question, as well as if you do a super chat, those get pushed to the top of the list. And one quick reminder, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, as we have many more debates coming up. And with that, gentlemen, the floor is all yours for open dialogue.
So
I'd like to kick us off with a few things there, remarking toward what Dustin just said, a few of the things that he just stated. And one of the things that TJump actually stated as well. So we're here tonight, we're debating polytheism versus atheism. Polytheism isn't a direct branch of any sort of pantheon of gods and goddesses. Therefore, TJump's question of, I don't know which gods and goddesses they're representing, is kind of invalid, because we're debating polytheism as a whole. There's so many different pantheons with multi-god and goddesses systems that it doesn't make any sense to say, hey, I don't know which ones they represent so that I can attack those. I can understand that to be a valid debate argument. However, it doesn't really fit this specific debate. That said, Dustin said, I believe gods and goddesses are to make changes in people's lives. That's something they're supposed to do. I'd say that even if it's not a physical change in someone's life, that mentally the belief in gods and goddesses can specifically make changes in people's lives directly or indirectly. And that follows kind of what TJump said in, hey, if it makes you happy, you should do it. It doesn't mean that he has to believe it. It just means that, hey, it makes a positive claim in someone's life.
So what are we talking about exactly? Like, what is your positive claim?
That polytheism, that there are gods, goddesses, universes around us, and energies around us, and that those things do play a part in people's lives. I was kind of gonna finish what I was saying, and then I was gonna hand it over to Jordan so that he can kind of define that system.
Are you defining? Are you talking about gods, or are you talking about energy and spirituality and the consciousness and your connection to the universe? Like,
so what is the difference is my point. We see that in vast spiritual systems, religious systems, that which I'll go ahead. All right. Polytheist belief a god can be defined as a phenomenon, whether natural or otherwise, that exhibits identifiable or personified characteristics that humans can recognize and relate to. These characteristics may include virtues such like wisdom, love, courage, or justice, or natural phenomena such as lightning, storms, and fertility. All of the studies of the humanities, what we call the humanities, right, is based off polytheistic belief, spiritual belief. If you want an actual factual truth claim, my truth claim would be, if you get a bunch of people together, they will find phenomena, they will relate to this phenomena, and they will define their culture based off of that experience with phenomena. We see this with every culture that's ever existed, with every history, like everything. So saying gods are direct or indirect is kind of moot when we're talking about polytheism and how polytheism shapes our world even today. So go ahead, Matt. Sorry, continue. I'm chomping at the bit.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that we need to start by even just defining what polytheism is, because our atheist hosts don't seem to understand what that is. Polytheism is the belief in more than one God, right? So directly, I want to quote Dustin here. He says polytheism is watered down monotheism, which is kind of an attack on character and religion. I mean, right off the start, right off the bat, I mean, to us, that's a little bit offensive, because I would say that, I mean, I think everyone here should believe and know that polytheism was around way before monotheism. So to self-describe polytheism as being a watered down monotheism would immediately be like, I don't even know what I'm talking about, right?
Well, I literally have no idea what any of you are talking about. Like atheism,
concur.
no gods, polytheism, gods. What do you know? Caught in the middle, like you claim that the gods exist, energies exist. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the evidence? And by God, I'm assuming you mean something outside of the bounds of physics, right? Because physics says no God, science says no God.
No.
What?
That's a complete misnomer. Science
Yeah.
doesn't even look for God or gods.
Yes, it does.
It does not.
It does. It does all the
By
time.
nature of the science.
It's so convenient to just
Wait,
make
one
that
sec.
claim.
Science-
No,
Science cannot
listen.
find your God.
No,
You
that's
assume
not
God
my-
that is not my
outside of
claim.
science.
If we're
It's
not
not
looking
my
for a
claim.
treasure, it's not likely we're
gentlemen,
gonna
I
find
do
it.
have to jump in just because people aren't able to hear anybody if everybody's
Yeah,
talking at the same
that's
time.
not my claim.
So science does look for gods. It's false to say that they don't. We literally have papers searching for gods, all hundreds of them. But that's irrelevant. I don't care whether science looks for gods, in your opinion. It doesn't make a difference. What do you claim exists that is beyond what atheism claims exists? Because atheism is just science. So
Yes, no, that's not true. There
What?
are atheists that can be
I'm
anti-science.
talking about mine. I'm talking about my
Atheist
science.
is
I
non-belief.
don't care about them. I'm talking about me. I'm debating you. Don't talk about other
No,
atheists. When I
You're
say atheism, I
talking
mean
about
science.
atheism.
I am the atheist you're speaking to. So when you're debating
Yes.
atheism, you're talking to me, to my atheism, nobody else's. Don't care about anybody else's. So my atheism is essentially just science. So what in your worldview do you claim exists outside of my atheism, which is just science?
So, I
That-
mean, I guess we'd have to ask you what your definition of your atheism is, because you're saying not to compare
Science.
you with other atheists. So, if we're
Science.
talking about atheism as a whole, which is the debate, right?
He
Polytheism
just
versus
said the
atheism.
Did
definition.
literally just say so.
He
Science,
literally just said
materialism,
it 4 or
physics.
5 times.
So, why don't you just say my religion is science? I'm not an atheist. I'm just a science person.
I don't know what like.
So
sure.
define science, right?
Yeah,
science
science.
is the
So, polytheism versus
methodological
science.
naturalism.
So first of all, I am pro science. I
Okay.
love science. I rely on archaeology, history, world sciences.
I don't care.
That's rude.
Well,
first
no,
of
my
all.
question is what
No,
do
no,
you
no,
claim
like-
exists outside of my worldview? The debate is polytheism versus atheism. My atheism is just metaphysical or methodological
So-
naturalism. So what are you claiming exists beyond methodological naturalism?
Okay, so to start off with, right? The understanding of the natural world through the sciences, right? Through experimentation, observation, recording, trial and error, is to understand the mundane world that we live in, the material, right? The foundation of the sciences, what gives us the atom, everything, comes from the polytheistic worldview that we can ascend higher, that we have virtues and characteristics, and we rely on these things
I'm totally
to
lost.
identify.
I have no idea what you're saying.
Okay,
May I ask her? I'm going to give it back to TJump because he's on a good roll here. But I have a question. I have just one question, please.
Yeah, I mean, your stuff's very easy to attack, Dustin. So, I mean, I hope you
well,
continue.
I would say that whenever I said that polytheism was a watered down form of monotheism, you're talking in terms of historicity and which came first.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with what I said. I didn't say that polytheism came after monotheism. I mean that monotheism is typically okay. Well, you're sidetracking me from my question.
I mean, it's obvious. Monotheism is watered down polytheism. So
Who
it's
cares?
opposite
Who
of what
cares?
you
Has
said.
nothing to do with the debate.
And
Who cares?
both can
Yeah.
exist side by
So
side. through
what is the
culture.
difference between if somebody claimed to believe in Gandalf or Dumbledore or Yoda, and they claim that they have devotional practices to Gandalf, and Gandalf is, part of their understanding of the universe, is that different than polytheism? Like, okay, Gandalf and Dumbledore, let's say they have two concepts of a spirit in some form of Dumbledore and Gandalf. How is that different than your stated definitions or forms of polytheism.
What could you attach Dumbledore or Ganon?
No, actually,
Gandalf
can I
in
kind of
life?
get in, Matt?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
So
man.
you're saying that if Dumbledore was a spiritual archetype that was attested to in worship, then he would be a spiritual archetype.
Yeah,
that was
sure, an
attested in worship.
archetype, like
But-
a socially
but-
constructed archetype.
But
of
that is kind of putting. It's like a misnomer, because you're saying if people worshipped Gandalf, they would worship Gandalf. I get your question that what makes Gandalf different than Thor, right? Is that what you're going
That's the
for?
question. If we could just focus on that question.
Okay, what makes Gandalf different than Thor is Gandalf has nothing to do with phenomena of culture, of the self, of the universe, or direct connection. I'm sure people love Lord of the Rings. They may connect with it socially, but the difference is the idea of Gandalf, the ideal, what Gandalf represents in a hierarchical view is not a deity, not a devotion. Gandalf, through history, through the relationship of the authentic audience to Gandalf, there's no spirituality there. There's nothing. It is a character, is a play. Why did polytheists in the past not worship playwrights? Why aren't we worshiping Shakespeare? Why aren't we worshiping Hamlet? Right?
Well, I mean,
why are we
cares?
dedicated to Apollo?
It depends
Why are
on
we
what your form of
dedicated to-
worship is. Like, if you just
Oh my
want to
God.
keep
Can we please,
doing
can
the
we
whole
please go to
ground
the
of all
topic?
being line of argument, you could say
But-
worship is whatever you want to do with your
This
free
is online,
time.
TJump.
Literally nothing, anything you have said has that given us anything to talk about. Like just let's
No, because you're not
forget that.
finding.
We're
it
all
valuable.
talking except
What?
you.
Is what
Your
do
lack
you
of
claim
understanding.
exists beyond materialism, beyond methodological naturalism?
Like your lack of being able to understand
Don't
anything
tell me
that's
about my
not
lack.
one
Answer
plus
the question.
one.
The question is, what do you claim exists beyond methodological naturalism? If nothing, say nothing. If something, say something.
So
Go ahead, Jordan. We can keep repeating things.
So no, because it's I get the hook you're trying to do. So
This
again,
isn't a hook.
no,
I'm trying to understand the gibberish
no,
you are
you're
saying.
no, you're not.
What
We're in a
do
debate.
you
We're in a
believe
debate.
exists outside of methodological naturalism? Nothing or something.
TJump, the louder you get, the more broken your voice sounds. Just so you know.
James,
So-
get him to answer the question. I'm trying to actually address the debate
Okay,
topic.
like
Polytheism, atheism.
give me
What
the floor.
do
I
No.
do want to. All right, gentlemen, let me just jump in. It would be good, just because there have been we've covered a lot of ground in terms of breadth. It would be good if there was maybe ideally a syllogism. So kind of like premise, conclusion in terms of an argument for polytheism. Or it could likewise be for atheism, in the sense that whether you guys take strong atheism or weak atheism, but maybe who's willing to put forth a syllogism? By that I just mean, so like for example, as an example, the old Kalam, if the universe began to exist, the universe has a
Okay.
cause.
I have
Premise
like
two,
a
the
loose
universe
metaphor.
began to exist.
Sorry, James. I don't mean to cut you off.
What have you got for
okay.
a syllogism?
Okay,
Just so
so-
we have the gist of it.
So
Like
we're
literally,
talking,
please list the premises.
So we're talking all of polytheism, all of the human experience that's led up to this point through multiple cultures in history, in contact with the divine and ascending to ourself. What I currently see and what I would argue, right? Atheism is non-action. Atheism is a fixed position, right? That does not even bother to explore half of the human experience in touch with the divine. And now this could be due to like nature or nurture.
This is not a syllogism. Can we please get to the syllogism?
Okay, I'm getting there. All right, because you want me to explain these high-end
Start with
concepts.
premise one.
Okay, so premise one.
Don't tell us how to argue, man. We got this.
Obviously, you don't.
So
But
premise.
it's not an argument. You're just,
No, no,
you're just
let's go.
continuing
Premise
to
one,
state.
premise one.
You're just continuing to state your.
We can't put
Words.
things into words, and 1 + 1
so
equals
so
2. So 5
two
words
things. Two things
requires
right?
a few.
Our worldview is not just rainbows and unicorns exist with no thought or for. It takes time to explain the basis of our worldview, rational and philosophy. If you don't give that, then you're not going to comprehend.
I want to.
Right? You have
I don't
you
care.
have the simple. You have the simple thing. The same thing happens in other kind of debates, like
Can we
evolution.
get to the syllogism?
Okay, I'm working on it.
Don't
So-
work on it. Say premise one is, then continue.
How much time do you need? I just want to have an expectation of how much time.
Okay.
I'm gonna be
How
sitting
about
here.
more than 10 seconds before we keep getting interrupted?
So, premise one: humans connect with phenomena. We have the ability, right? To see phenomena in life, whether that is luck. Atheists, I know lots of atheists that blow on their D&D dice, that name their dice, they go, oh, please be lucky. They have a semblance of luck and the idea of metaphysics in that way, right? Sentimentality can be a similar thing. Humans connect to phenomena innately, by nature. We connect to phenomena.
Okay, premise 1, we connect to stuff. Premise 2.
I wrote it down. We have it.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I'm clear.
Yes, we make up emotional connections to things. I agree.
Humans
Next.
connect with phenomenon. Perfect.
Yeah.
Next,
Okay.
please.
So humans are also rational. Okay, that would be my next thing. Humans are rational and logical, and we have this incredible ability. Are you having like a stroke, TJump?
Humans are
okay?
partially rational, mostly irrational, but I don't see how this gets you to.
Okay,
it,
if humans are
No.
rational,
Let
wait,
them
if humans are
finish.
if humans are irrational, how can you be so sore in your fixed position?
Is this part of the syllogism, or are you off?
Well, no,
track?
I'm just
Are you-
making a point.
He's
Okay,
made
so we
one
have
point so far. Now he's on
humans
to
connect
now
with
he's on to the
phenomenon,
second one.
And
Humans
then
are
we have
partially rational.
humans
So
are
what?
rational and logical. So far, we
Okay.
have 2.
Okay, so we're
Is there a
able,
third?
right? So Matthew, take over. I
What?
need a second.
Yeah.
What?
So what Dustin's kind of saying is that there are virtues amongst humanity
I
that
don't-
nothing
Jordan,
else
sorry,
shares.
you said Dustin.
There's something, and polytheism doesn't place an exact position on what created us, what gave us this, what any of this is.
Well,
what
okay, I forgive me,
virtues
please.
amongst
please.
humanity
I am
that
so sorry.
doesn't
I'm
exist
so-
amongst the rest of the world.
I must-
It
I must-
doesn't,
I must
ahead.
interject. I apologize. In the beginning, both TJump and I were both stating that your introductions gave no description as to what you believe or why you believe it. And I and TJump are both gently pushing you into
Should I interrupt you every 10 seconds?
trying to just finish this argument. We have humans connect with phenomenon, and then we have humans are rational and logical. And then Jordan transferred his consciousness into you so that you could finish his thoughts. And now you're just going on.
Oh man, this is like are you Kent Hovind now? We came from a rock kind of thing? Is that what that ad hom is?
Can we just, like, just for the sake of my sanity, please, if we could just finish this one small little molecule of like the argument that you were attempting to finish.
Well, that's what Jordan here was attempting to do before he was interrupted. Like, I don't know, I could make a
No, he
No,
stopped.
no,
He
there was
stopped
no-
and gave it to you.
There
Do I
was
need to
no
do like a
interruption.
Nathan Thompson
He
thing and do like a little
transferred
check
to
mark boogie board?
you so that you could
Oh my God.
finish the thoughts. There
James,
was no interruption.
give us a syllogism. Make them give us a syllogism, please. Please.
Jordan started with 1 and
And
he
then he
was on to
stopped.
number 2.
Wait, that
So-
was the complete syllogism? That was the complete form? The final
If
form?
we have
so
a
listen,
syllogism just in the sense that even like as an analogy, let me give you an example. Like, let's say I was using the kalam. If I said, like, I'm going to argue, like, in a nutshell, to give you a very brief summary, I would say, I'm going to argue that God exists and that we have reason to believe that the universe has a cause and that God is that cause. And that's the gist of it.
okay.
Like, what
So-
could you give it to? That's like
Yeah.
the really bare bones. Could you give
Yeah.
us a really bare bones, like 2-sentence explanation of the argument?
Yes. Okay. So every culture that has ever existed has had a polytheistic tradition. I don't think that's an accident. I don't think that's a misnomer that we naturally pull to the divine and connect with something higher than ourselves that gives us higher ideas to make us understand the natural world that gives birth to the sciences, right? We would not be pulling to something over nothing if it didn't have value, if the phenomena didn't make a difference in our lives, if it was not good, if it was nothing. All right, that is my argument. That humans, we as humans, no matter where we are, connect with the divine in some form, and that the divine exists in some form that is intangible through us, through phenomenon, through our understanding and our really like natural abilities to understand it to begin with.
Do you not think that we exist as atheists?
I think he exists. Absolutely.
We know
Do you think
exist.
that we're just making shit up and lying? That
No.
we do
No.
actually believe in the divine, that we actually secretly go to a little room and, devote our our prayers and thanks. And
Well, that was irrelevant to the argument. So the argument was that every society believes in polytheism. Therefore, polytheism is true or something.
is that the argument?
It seems like it. But
I think what Jordan is trying to say is that every different nationality, culture, faith across planet Earth, prior to the adaptation of the Abrahamic faith, were able to connect certain things directly or indirectly to certain gods, goddesses, etc. If we were animists, they were able to attach it toward some sort of energy. If there were shamanists, then they had a director that was able to do it. I'm getting a little off topic here, but that at the very beginning of humanity, even up to today, which we see society is beginning to move back towards, where it's been able to attach certain names towards a certain energy, towards a certain virtue, towards something that humans seem to live by.
Therefore, right, we get these virtues. We get to the core of what our experience is, and we connect with something higher than ourselves. So like Odin. Odin's name is Other, the original name in Old Norse. It is ecstasy. It is wisdom, right? It is these key virtues that we can entangle, we can view and ascend to, right? So Democritus, right?
I'm not seeing how any of this is different than humans make stuff up and it makes them feel good.
So no, I think
that humans make up science that came from historical ideologies, historical figures that still live on today through various science. That were religious, that were polytheists at the time when they invented said things, and that nowadays atheists live by the science that they
what does this have to do with my
mathematical
question?
Equations, and not through maybe the creation thereof, like how they got there.
My question, just clarify. My question was, how is everything you just said not the same as humans? All humans make stuff up, and it makes them feel good.
Because it's not a simple.
Well, okay, wait. Not just that they make stuff up; they make up different things. If every different culture were to make up the same theology or the same, whatever, they connect with the universe the same way with the same gods, the roles that the gods give you, the way that they, attach their reality to the gods and all this stuff. But every culture has different gods.
I'd like to take that one if you don't mind, Jordan.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Dustin, so that's actually cool that you asked that, man. So I asked TJump this once. He came onto my show. Thank you again, TJump. I truly do appreciate that, man. Honestly, I'm not just saying that. So anyways, so I asked TJump on my show once. I said, hey, so how do we relate the fact that 17 different cultures, face nationalities across the face of the earth that we don't believe at the current day could communicate with one another? How did 17 different ones come up with a guy with one eyeball that wore a patch over one eye or a scarf over one eye, something over one eye, that ended up being at the top of said pantheons? I think I'm not going to ask whether or not you know what a pantheon is. I'm sorry. So was at the top of a pantheon. He was always known for a god or goddess of wisdom. And so that 17 different cultures face, religions across the face of the earth. Maybe they had different names for said gods and goddesses. However, they had the same pretense and they were not able to communicate with one another. And I'm happy to provide that evidence at the end of the debate if you don't mind.
I don't care about that. So I addressed that in the last one. I want to go back to my question, which is the more important one. Why is what you said...
Is Dustin not as important as you think?
That question wasn't, because it's irrelevant.
I'm his sidekick. I already emailed TJump and said he can take the lead. I'm just here to,
So I want to know, if everything you just said and believed is perfectly compatible with my belief, which is all polytheists are doing is making stuff up and it makes them feel good. Just like all theists are doing is making stuff up and it makes them feel good. And so I want to know what in your position would disagree with my position, which is you're just making stuff up and it makes you feel good.
Well, being that atheism is a relatively new concept, not exactly, but sort of, in the modern age, it's never been really picked up at all. So we're talking about a history of thousands upon thousands, decades, not decades, but tens of thousands of years of
so people make stuff up for tens of thousands of years and it makes them happy. So what about, I would still agree. I would agree with this statement. Do you disagree with the statement?
So no, it's not as clear as making things up.
What's the difference?
Because it's an understanding. That's the difference. So I can make
understanding of what?
I can make up.
I mean, if
anything.
we would have listened at the beginning, you probably would have understood what he's saying, but instead you
So-
kept interrupting.
I can have any imaginary friend that I choose to have.
Sure.
Right. I
Sure.
could have a rainbow unicorn named
Yes.
Sarah. Right.
Yes.
Okay. This is not. So that is a made up concept. Right. Would you agree?
Sure.
Okay. So the difference is I did not connect with what I would call Sarah through the experience of the natural world, through phenomena, through understanding the virtues and characteristics, through rational thinking, as in the natural sciences. Okay. And by that, I mean like the origin of sciences through alchemy, hermeticism, understanding the characteristics of something. So if you understand, okay, that fire is hot, right?
Sure.
Okay. So we naturally give aspects to fire. Have you lit a fire in your yard?
Yes.
You're like, that fire is aggressive.
That
Have you ever
is-
been fired up?
Sure.
Okay. So we know the nature of fire, right? We
Sort
have
of.
a nature to fire. We understand that it is consuming, it can be aggressive, it is hot from the heat, right? From the heat of fire.
It can also be non-existent at certain times.
I mean, sure, there can be like, well, I don't know what you'd call non-fire.
What does
but
this
sure.
have to do with the topic?
So this has to do with the topic because polytheists created the bedrock for understanding, because we could see a limitless universe, limitless potential to understand something innately and personably to get to scientific understanding we have today. Democritus, okay, was a polytheist.
What does that matter? So that's this fallacy, genetic fallacy. Genetic fallacy. The origin of something doesn't make the origin
No,
true.
no, because it's not just an origin; it's a follow-through.
I don't know
Okay,
what that
Isaac
means.
Newton's hermetic
Follow-through.
work outweighed his mathematical work. And why would that matter? Because the key to thermodynamics was built on the back and was less important to Isaac Newton than understanding the phenomena world. And if that's not important to you, then you're just, to me,
That's
you're
true.
devaluing.
I have
I
no
have a
idea.
question.
Again, I have
May
no
I?
idea. What
I
you're
have.
talking
I have a
about.
question, please. I have a question.
Yeah.
Gentlemen.
As long as we're allowed to answer it, TJump. Are we allowed to answer his question, TJump?
No, because you still haven't answered mine.
Okay,
At the very
well,
beginning.
Okay, so don't ask your question, Dustin. TJump
At the
said
very
no.
beginning, I asked, how is anything in your worldview different from my perspective, which is you're just making stuff up and it makes you feel good. That's
He is
really-
making so first of all, making stuff up. It's not made up. It's discovered through
What's
these
discovered?
virtues. Through interacting with ourselves in the natural world.
What is discovered? I don't care
That's
about
what-
how you discover. What is discovered?
Discover in general, like scientific
Gods?
discovery.
Were gods discovered?
They're virtues that we ascend to God.
Those are emotions. That's making stuff
Okay,
up.
wait.
Make stuff
Are
up,
you
emotions.
saying that the good things that you think are good in the world because you think they're good are products of a disembodied mind that is undetectable? And
You think
those
they're good or they are
disembodied
good?
minds gave humans these good things that you are subjectively believe
So,
are good.
through
And
all
not
of
just
poly-
good things either. Bad things
Yeah,
as well.
through all of
Well, I was gonna
poly-
say, like, what about a baby that's just like lying in the ditch
Why-
dying
this
because
is
you know
off topic.
the mother
This is off
left the
topic.
baby there. Is that a good
So,
thing?
so
It's
so
off
no,
topic.
let me answer your question. Okay. First, we're talking about all of polytheism. And that includes a lot of worldviews. So in like a
Wait,
very
I
sliver
just
of
asked a
sliver-
question
Oh,
about.
Okay, let me answer.
Okay,
it.
so this whole debate is going.
So
to
you don't
go
want to
with
think. You don't
a
want
question is
information.
asked, and
You
then
don't
the
want
answer to the
information,
question
and you don't
is
want to think. You want to
polytheism
you
is
want to continue
different
non-thinking.
things.
That's all I'm hearing.
Polytheism is different things, and not any one question can be answered succinctly because we're going to have to go through a
If we're talking about polytheism,
historical, past
You-
It's
odyssey
required.
it is required.
Great. So what
Yeah,
about
I wish we had like 3 hours, 5 hours, but we're
How-
trying to like sum
James,
this
do you
up,
wanna
but
go
it
for
takes
6
us
And
a
I
little
and
while.
like we
I'm
had
here. I
we had
can
short
go.
notice
I can
to
go a
like
long time. Do you want to
So-
go 5 hours, 6 hours?
I'm down. I can do a beer round, but yeah, sure. So to be
How did the good things get here? Virtues,
okay, because so like virtues.
courage, love.
And bad things.
But let's focus on virtues because those are typically high things. And again, that's pretty innate, right? So beauty, right? We tend to think that like beautiful things are similar. Like There can be variances, but we have the attention to like something is beautiful. It has a virtue of beauty. Okay.
Sure. Okay. Yes.
All right.
Things are beautiful. Okay.
All right. And not only can physical things be beautiful, non-physical things can be beautiful. Right? Have you had a
Sure.
beautiful thought?
Yes.
All right, a beautiful experience,
Yes.
right?
Sure. Yes.
So
Harry
it is
Potter is
a-
beautiful.
Okay. Yeah. We agree with that.
There's a virtue that transcends the physical to non-physical, right? Through our understanding of the phenomena of beauty.
I think those are all
Okay.
physical, but what's your point?
How are they all physical?
Brains, thoughts, states, so they're all physical. That's the consensus in
Oh,
neurology,
I would say that-
psychology, physical sciences. Everybody thinks it's physical. in
Okay,
every
but
every field.
Are you
Is-
saying that consciousness proves gods?
I'm saying that our connection, because I would agree that we may be poor instruments for everything non-physical, maybe, but through our experience in the physical, we can ascertain the non-physical.
Oh, that's
through
good.
the
They're
virtue-
non-physical. So when I originally asked a
so-
question about what do you believe in that disagrees with methodological naturalism? If you think anything non-physical exists, that would be a great example. Why do you think anything non-physical exists?
So it may so
Is
things
love
may be
non-physical?
No, everything is physical. I'm a materialist. Everything
Is
physical.
is happiness non-physical?
No, it's physical. It's literally a chemical
Anger?
in the brain. Physical. This is the consensus among
no,
all
so I would say
neurologists,
that would-
cognitive
They're just
scientists.
brain states.
Yes.
What else is there than a brain state?
So I would say that I would say that happiness has a physical component, but you're missing the other component, which is non-physical, which is the experience of happiness. That connection to happiness, that is non-physical. And the cool thing about
Why do you
virtues,
think that?
because it's innate, and this has been the dialogue, the same dialogues I'm using now, right, has led us to literally discovering the atom before we had any periodic table, anything, because it's in the idea of forms and virtues that we discover the natural world. And there are phenomena that surpass what we can observe succinctly, what we can
Can
measure.
you feel happiness and love if you're being tortured?
If you're in the
Yes.
BDSM, I'm sure there is a state where you can experience something negative. and
Can
being
I,
positive.
I am not into that, but is it possible for, if I am being tortured, am I able to just flip my brain state and attach myself onto this concept of happiness and just think, oh, I'm happy. I love you, torturer.
I mean,
Please
I would
continue torturing me. Can I think this?
I would
Or
argue.
oh wait, or are these brain states of love and happiness and being horrified and terrified that you're being tortured, are these byproducts of physical interactions from the real world that cause these brain states to occur? Like, why would I not just be able to sit here and just feel love immediately? Like, I love my mouse pad or I love my keyboard. How come I can't do that?
So
You
I
can,
say that
actually, you can do that. Physical states can still do that. I don't really see the relevance of that question. You can. do that.
But
No,
Brain
but
states
like,
are-
why can't I do that? I
You can.
can't-
You literally can. If it's physical states, you can literally do that.
But you can't just choose to believe something.
Yes,
you
you
have
can.
to. It has to be a
There
brain
are,
state,
if it's physical,
So
there's ways
I-
to change the physical states to make you believe them. So you can do that. I don't see how it's relevant.
but
That's a
not
bad
where I'm
question.
sitting currently.
You may not be able to because you physically.
If that was my
can't.
question, why am I not able to do that right now?
There could be lots of reasons, even if there's a
So
spiritual
again,
state, you
I
cannot
would
do that.
argue.
It's
So
irrelevant.
this is like our big difference. Okay.
I mean, I'll let the two of them argue with each other. That's cool with me.
I want
Yeah,
to get back
no,
to the
for sure.
actual topic because you still have not answered a single question. Well, I guess you've answered one. Answer
That's
one question.
so.
I mean, some of the audience seems to get it, but you're still not.
So
Yes, because I'm rational.
I would disagree. I would disagree that you're not taking a rational state with this because you're not willing to transcend what really isn't even a consensus on science. We are still measuring things. We are still understanding the natural world.
The consensus of
And this
science is
is pretty-
materialism. Nothing beyond materialism. Everything is material.
Yes, and if you're stuck in this one box, you are not flexible. And I'm not saying, oh golly,
That makes
gee,
no
we're talking about-
sense
How?
because there's
What
nothing
is your
in this
misunderstanding?
worldview of materialism that excludes the supernatural. If you have evidence of the supernatural, we're happy to grant it. If you have
Have you
evidence
had
of
an
non-physical
idea?
things, we're happy to grant it. You just don't have any. That's what we're asking for.
So have you had an idea?
Yes.
Is an idea physical?
Yes.
When does An idea, a unique
Yes, the
idea.
consensus among every neuroscientist, every
we
philosopher
can
of mind,
measure
every expert in consciousness is it is physical. We can literally measure and weigh ideas. You can calculate how much they weigh based off how much energy they have. You can Google it, how much does a thought weigh? Yes, this is physical. That's the consensus among every scientific field.
So so first of all, hold on. Talking a lot. So we can measure a physical component, right? We can measure a physical component and have a weight of a transference of data. But I would say, but is science concrete? No, science evolves every day, every week. There are new studies, new journals. And so I'd say it would be hard to have a concrete idea of like, this is how the brain works 100%.
What?
Right?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Obviously, science isn't concrete. Science is a methodology. Methodologies are not concrete things.
Yes.
Sure.
And methodologies are dependent on how you measure the subject matter, how you approach it.
Yes. If you have a better methodology, present it.
Okay, then again, like it sucks because we do have methodologies. I personally do not, because I'm not a scientist. I'm not in a scientific field. I don't have a doctorate, any of that. But again, we have like Isaac Newton, where 6 times of his work was based on metaphysical principle, practice, and application, and that is ignored.
Smart people do stupid things, a lot of stupid things. That's not evidence.
If something metaphysical is the base of Isaac Newton's work,
that is not evidence.
If those things wouldn't exist without the metaphysical,
that's a genetic
then
fallacy.
I think there's something behind that.
That's a genetic fallacy. So you can have a stupid idea that is completely wrong, but it can guide you to the truth. That doesn't mean the stupid idea was actually correct.
It's
so
still
you're incorrect.
It means the quote unquote stupid idea is still part of what the equation becomes.
No, the stupid idea was the thing that started you along the path to get.
So
to the
is an idea stupid? So if Isaac Newton credited all of his work to a metaphysical principle, you would throw all that and just take the principle that you personally agree with?
The one that
to me that's irrational.
To exist independent of imagination is the one we keep, and the ones that cannot are the ones we get rid of.
That is like beyond limiting.
I don't know what that means. Obviously, it's limiting because it gets rid of the stupid ideas. But why do you think that's bad?
How do you define a stupid idea?
Things that can't be differentiated between imagination and reality.
So again, like a love for a partner
that can be different. That would not be a stupid idea. We can differentiate love. That's a material, physical process that we can identify in the brain. We can stop it with different chemicals. Yes, that's not a stupid
but not
idea.
Really.
Yes, we can.
No, you can have.
You're saying that love never ends.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jordan.
No. Okay, you can get the chemical balance of love throughout the body as an experience.
Okay.
But you can't get the depth of personal love that you do experience. I cannot.
What?
Yes, you can literally get that. You can literally just shock your brain in the right place.
No.
Okay, so hang on, Jordan. May I?
There's no
yes, absolutely.
All right, so hold on a second. So what you two are stating right now is that there's a miracle drug out there that could be created that says you're going to experience love.
Yes,
like
we can literally shock you in the brain
drug,
to make you do that. Yes, there is
literally.
You
take the drug and then you love.
I don't know about the science, but it seems perfectly reasonable that this.
I mean, we can't even get medications right for veterans at this point. We can't make people happy.
This is not a medication.
What do you mean?
They stick an electrode in your brain.
Perfect medication.
You can stick as many electrodes as you want in my brain. I don't think you can just force me to be happy.
We can literally do that. There are literally studies that have literally done that.
So then, why aren't they doing that? Why are we not seeing more of it?
They have. It's just
like, why are we spending like thousands of millions and billions of dollars on medications when we can just shock people into happiness?
Why don't we stick electrodes in everyone's brains to shock them into happiness while cutting their skull open and sticking a giant tube in their brain? That's a stupid idea. Yes, we can do that. Yes, we can do that
safely.
So, yes, we can do this. We don't.
And why aren't we doing it?
Because they have to cut your brain open, stick an electrode in.
But you just said we can do it safely.
And an anesthetician.
I mean, you're kind of making the assumption that happiness is the only thing that matters.
No,
I stated numerous times that the bad things matter as well.
No, I'm using happiness as a base principle we can all identify with personally, something that we've all experienced. I hope everyone here has experienced happiness in their life. That would be good.
And you're arguing it's not physical.
Yeah, but I don't experience happiness all the time.
I am arguing that it's not physical.
And I'm not arguing
there has to be some external force that like causes me to feel the happiness.
So
that is a byproduct of just basically evolution. Certain things trigger that happiness and certain things don't. If a rhinoceros takes a giant shit, I'm not going to be thinking, oh, this makes me happy. But, if I meet a girl and I'm going on a date and I'm getting these feelings for her, yeah, I'm going to be happy. Like, it's just brain states being caused by physical outside influences, and they're fleeting. They come and they go. That's why I asked you why can't I just fall in love with a keyboard right now? Why can't I control this brain state if it's something like in my head that, that's the question. But I mean,
Well,
TJump says irrelevant.
I hate to fall into any type of monotheistic because, the monotheists keep debating you guys over and over and over again. However, the one thing that they do say that's true, and TJump, I'm getting to something, thanks, is that in the form of evolution, I mean, we have Cro-Magnons that are here, Neanderthals that are here. We have this species. I don't need to go into all the different ones. And they all seem to adopt into humans if they don't just die off. And all of the said humans across the face of the earth come up with the same emotions. They all come up with the same virtues, the same ideologies. And we're talking about people that could not communicate with one another. And once again, they came up with pantheons of gods and goddesses, or vice versa, or one or the other, whatever. That were even in the same status quo moving down. Like, why is that?
Because evolution.
Give me an answer.
It's the same reason.
So
evolution
evolution says that 17
the same reason everyone used to believe the world was flat, because we have certain evolutionary tendencies to believe certain things, and those things are contingent on what's helpful for us in society. So evolution selects for false beliefs like illusions, delusions, misconceptions, fallacies, biases. All humans share these things. All humans share an anchoring bias. All humans share type 1 and type 2 errors. All humans share an authority bias. All of these things are demonstrably false, but all humans share them. You have this idea that because all humans share silly ideas, that the silly ideas are justified simply because everyone shares them. That is not true. We know for certain that is not true because science has proven silly ideas that everyone shares are false all the time. There are thousands of examples of these. So you have to show why your silly idea isn't exactly the same as the other silly ideas.
They all developed them symbiotically amongst themselves without the influence of outside culture?
Yes, it's all humans everywhere
All
have these biases.
Oh, and they all came up with the same theories.
Yeah, anchoring bias. All humans. Type 1 and type 2 errors.
All humans came up with the same point of view.
All of these
without
fallacies are in
communication.
all humans. Yes, no communication. It's in our biology.
And through this view,
that
they
seems awful
discovered the
weird.
natural world, the sciences,
Yes,
where we
literally,
are.
these fallacies led us to
So
discovering
we do
science.
have the ability to drop baggage off, things that aren't true off, right?
Yes.
Like so great book, Hellenistic Astrology, blank name, really great book. In it talks about the history of astrology. And I know you don't care about astrology. We're not debating astrology. Is the Babylonians got really into the stars because it pertained to them and their lives. And they needed a way to measure the effects of these stars and planets on their lives. So they started astronomy.
Yeah.
I mean, the astronomy, the tracing
Yes,
of planets and stars with meaning, with collecting data on their day-to-day lives.
Right.
Right.
So we
Within
started
10
with astrology.
years.
Astrology was wrong, but it led us to astronomy. Astronomy.
No,
was right.
they developed together. Astronomy backs astrology in this
And
this
then
time
we found
period.
astrology was wrong, and we debunked it. We got rid of it. We're no longer using it.
I would disagree in parts.
I would disagree in parts as well.
Okay,
But through the methodology of what is important to us as people, we literally understood that, oh, shoot, the Earth is moving. Oh, we're not geocentric. Oh, dude, this is crazy, right? And our worldview fundamentally trained with the truth of what was observable, what was experienced. And if you're throwing away the ideas that stay with connection to the divine, that led us there, that is married to this, then I think you're literally missing half of the puzzle. Now that said, I'm an honest seeker of truth. I'm not here holding my ears and going la 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 la. All right, I'm considering what data we do have available through history, through human culture and connection. Right, and you're not. You're leaving.
No, I'm doing only science. You're making stuff up. I'm doing what's called not making stuff up. So there's three categories. There's three categories of things. There's things that are demonstrably true, things that we can show exist independent of our imagination. 2, things that we can show are demonstrably false, things that we can disprove. And 3, things that are unfalsifiable. So obviously astrology has been falsified. Every science says, yeah, it's garbage, it's wrong. I don't know why you disagree with that, but that's the claim we can talk about. 2 is things that we can prove are true, like evolution. We can prove that one's true. All the evidence shows evolution is true. 3 are unfalsifiable things. Some certain kinds of gods are unfalsifiable.
I mean, there's a lot of gaps in evolution.
Are equally as wrong as provenly falsifiable things. So unfalsifiable and provenly falsifiable, both garbage. Get rid of all of them.
It depends on your measuring stick.
Science is the measuring stick.
No, it literally depends on the way that you go about the experiment, what data you've collected, and what
No.
human biases are at play.
No,
How-
no, it doesn't. Because
Yes,
we know these two
yes.
things are false, no matter which ones, because they're bad. Because anything can be justified. We know these are false. So
well,
unfalsifiable claims, provenly falsifiable claims, any methodology you use that is consistent and reliable was going to show those two are false every time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you have a point if you're talking about just one scientist making one test in one lab. Yeah, there's biases. There's, you know, all
So
this
there's
other
not
stuff.
biases.
That's
and
why
stuff.
you have other scientists check your work and they try to prove each other wrong and all this stuff.
I love the scientific method. I think it's a good standard. I'm not anti-scientist. I want to say that from the jump. I'm not a fundy or anything like that. But I will say culturally, humans have biases, right? And that includes a scientific model. Jon Snow couldn't prove germ theory till after his death, right? Because of biases
that's
in
incorrect.
science.
This is a common misunderstanding of the scientific method. Each individual has biases. So I like my model of, I don't know, physics or whatever.
So the shrinking of the
one sec. So because I like my model of physics, I'm going to try and find data that confirms my model of physics. Now, every other scientist has their own preferred model, and they disagree with mine. And so their biases, they're trying to prove me wrong. And each of them, their individual biases, if they can all try to prove me wrong and they can't, that means my bias is most likely correct and I got it right. So even though individually we have biases, each of our biases are pitted against each other in science to try to disprove all the other biases, which means the ones that get passed are unbiased, because the only reason they were passed was because everyone with other biases were trying to disprove it and they couldn't.
I think that somewhere we're mixing things up here, TJump, is that neither of us are disagreeing with science. Neither of us are saying that science is
You said there were
completely wrong.
non-physical things. That's disagreeing.
There
with
are
science.
non-physical things.
That's
There are
disagreeing with
reasons that
science.
scientists came to the conclusions they came to, and reasons that scientists still
Which
utilize that
scientific
scientists
field
abuse.
says there are non-physical things?
I mean, we've mentioned one, and you've refuted
Which
it.
scientific field?
Isaac Newton.
What was it?
Which field of science? Cosmology, astrology, astronomy, physics, chemistry, biology. Which field of science concludes they're non-physical things? Newton is not a field of science. Newton wrote most of his things about religion, which is discarded by science. So which field of science says there are non-physical things?
Which fields of sciences were created by certain scientists?
I don't care which field of sciences today. The field of science, not an individual scientist who's an idiot.
Which
the
field of sciences wouldn't exist today without said science?
You're just
I don't
dodging.
care.
You're just purposefully dodging the question.
I'm not dodging at all. What I'm
Literally
saying
are.
is
Then
that
what's the answer?
the
Which
roots,
field of
the
science?
roots of these scientific fields are rooted
That's a genetic
in what
fallacy.
we're talking about, that they wouldn't even exist.
That's a
Rooted
genetic
in what?
fallacy. That's literally a genetic fallacy. A genetic fallacy is a fallacy of origins.
Apparently, you guys don't like us to keep repeating ourselves, but that's what we keep doing.
Because I proved you wrong on this point, and you can't answer the question. The question was,
You
which
haven't, though.
field of science admits there are non-physical things? And then you bring up a genetic fallacy saying, oh, but these fields of scientists are originated in things that believe that nonsense, which is a genetic fallacy. So it doesn't answer
mean,
the question.
math is purely
conclusions they came to
metaphysical.
without
What?
it.
No, it's not.
Mathematics is purely metaphysical.
Physics
It
is
exists in the
metaphysical.
mind.
Everything is metaphysical.
Yeah, it's
Metaphysical
true.
is the fundamental
Okay.
nature
We
of
think we
reality.
can talk to
Metaphysical
aliens with
literally
math.
means non-physical.
No, it does
What are you
not. It
talking
literally
about?
does not mean that.
We literally think we can talk to other species with numbers.
Yes. and
So
that's
what was
fine. It's all physical.
how are we taking this entire
Because you think they're
conversation of
universal, right?
and
No.
wrapping it up into something that we can just take a bite out of? How does any of this apply to how you know or can prove
Would it
that
not
multiple gods exist?
Would it not-
Virtues. Okay, I think it was I apologize. I think you were talking about virtues, right? Ecstasy, virtues.
Things that only we have.
No, I
How
don't
do you
have
know
those
that
two.
gods gave this to us? Why does this necessarily mean that gods have to exist because love exists? How is that like
Because
nonsense?
because the gods are the highest ideal of these virtues which exist in our physical world that we can connect with, that we can experience, that we can have reciprocity with, possibly.
So
Because
you're
we
defining God
as I said it in the beginning, as any phenomena we can personally connect with, that we can identify characteristics and virtues for. That's all a god needs to be.
Well, this is
Okay,
why.
so
this
you're
is-
basically
what-
defining
I
God
wanted to
differently.
jump
The
in.
sun is a god. The physical sun can be defined as a god, and in
So
its
Gandalf can be
existence.
defined as a god.
I would disagree, because Gandalf's not really a phenomena unless you include
Relate him towards one.
Yeah, you can relate it. You can call him he could represent the phenomena of wisdom or the virtue of wisdom. right? Being
Yeah, the
used.
power of good over evil, the
Yes.
triumph of good over evil.
Sure,
I mean,
and that would
that's very
take courage,
simplified,
right?
but yeah.
Sacrifice.
Empowering the weak to rise up and take a hold
Yes.
of their.
And as humans, we make connections with these virtues because we see them. We even see them in nature. We see them in ourselves, in our communities, and we aspire to the ideal. The gods are the ideal, right? They are the ideal.
You're saying that virtues don't exist. They're not physical.
I'm saying it can be both.
Right. Wait,
I'm saying there's a physical manifest. There's a physical words. There's a physical version of these virtues because it exists in the ideal, and we apply introspection and rationale to understand that these things exist, like charity, right? Like giving, like sacrifice, is a noble good across all cultures. It is put in a sacred space, right? If you are charitable, that is universally a good
only
concept.
to a certain degree. Being completely charitable, like with everything, like you're just gonna have nothing, and then nobody ever gets anywhere.
I mean, that's a separate thing, though. I mean, because that would be on the side of the bad things that I said.
But
also
it has to be
exist.
balanced. But you're just picking things that you like, and then saying this is a virtue and therefore God.
No, we did say the bad things were included. We did state that.
I'm using universal values that we can all see to, and virtues are typically good.
And why are values just a product of evolution? Just a product of brains, evolution, nothing more.
Okay, even then, we still are idealistic creatures.
Okay, but
I'm not giving you that.
Why do we all have them?
About how these come to be through evolution, but then what you guys are saying, the opposing side would say, we can even accept evolution as perfectly true, and yet we still have this phenomenon of virtues that are non-physical. Would that be correct?
You're getting close. I appreciate you working on understanding.
Because I try to be kind of precise with my language and not just go on and on about all this other stuff.
So what was the answer? The answer is it's not just evolution, right? So virtues are more than evolution, just physical evolution, nothing more.
But they're non-physical as well, virtues.
That's more means more than that. So let's let them answer. How is virtues more than just physical evolution?
So it represents in the physical, because it transcends us.
I don't care how
I'm trying to word it succinctly.
How is it more than physical? Why is it not just a product of physical evolution? Because
what virtue did you say again? I'm sorry.
Pick anyone you want. I don't care.
Okay. So we agree that love is pretty much a societal good, right? It's good to love.
Sure.
And things can be lovely, right? We have a virtue to them.
Sure, maybe. I don't care.
Matt,
I mean, I can agree with that. Sure, as okay.
Yeah. So independently, so toward the science side of things, right? Towards the historicity, archaeology, of all that good stuff, right?
What?
So you have multiple cultures across the face of the earth that all developed.
That's a genetic fallacy. I don't care.
Wait, what?
The same virtues.
Genetic fallacy.
Independently, without communication.
Genetic fallacy.
Amongst different people. You can call it a fallacy all day. It doesn't make it not true.
Wait, okay.
It is. I agree. It's true that they did develop these things. It's just not.
So how do you explain that away with science? You can't explain this away with science.
It doesn't matter. That doesn't make it true. The fact that people came to develop certain feelings and those feelings are the same doesn't mean those feelings correspond to reality.
That would be beyond science.
So I would say that goes for atheism.
That would be beyond evolution.
Yes, atheism isn't true because lots of people believe it. That's not what makes anything
No, that's not what I'm saying.
If you can just find one society in the history of the entire
let's
human
stop talking about societies. Don't bring up societies. It does not matter. A genetic fallacy is a fallacy of irrelevance.
It kind of does.
It doesn't.
It just because they're bringing the argument up.
It doesn't matter. The number of societies that believe something is irrelevant to the truth of the claim. All societies.
I think it matters a lot. It matters a lot.
Societies.
I mean, science can't explain it away. Evolution can't explain it away.
Gentlemen, I do just 1 second. Let's give Tom a chance to finish. I promise we'll come right back to you, Matthew.
All humans believed in flat Earth about 4,000 years ago. The number of people who believe something is irrelevant. A genetic fallacy is a fallacy of irrelevance in which arguments or information are disseminated or validated based solely on their source or origin rather than their content. Literally does not matter where the idea came from. It does not matter if it came from a farting elephant rainbow in the sky. It makes no difference. The fact that a really good idea can come from something is zero evidence that the origin is true. This is literally a basic fallacy proven in science to be a fallacy of irrelevance, has no connection to the truth whatsoever. So every time you say that, it's proven false in every field of science. The question was, why do you think anything, virtues, I don't care, is more than just a physical process in the brain? What evidence do you have? And if the only evidence you have is a bunch of people came to those ideas independently in independent cultures, congratulations, that's a genetic fallacy. It's done by evolution. You don't need any non-physical spiritual garbage.
Is there anything else on Earth that has all the same virtues?
I don't know.
Because they've had just some of them have had. I mean, turtles have had more time to evolve than humans, right?
Time isn't the same as evolution. The amount of time doesn't guarantee like it's going to happen. Evolution doesn't work that way.
Do you not believe that animals feel some sort of basic love towards?
Yeah, because it's a virtue. So.
But wait. Like, is it a yes or no answer? Like, do you think a dog can feel? Yeah, even in a basic form.
Yeah. So, like, I think that animals, if you just, or even like life, right? Like plants will gravitate to what they see as good, like sunlight, right? What feeds them.
No, they don't see anything as good.
How do you know that?
It sustains them.
Never changing.
They don't have
it sustains them.
That doesn't make a difference. They don't have any opinions.
The sunflower will move to the sun. What is good? And that's where so.
No, it's not good. There's no good correlation there. They move towards the sun.
In 20 years, if science said that, like there was a big field of science that said that plants have brains, would you come back on this and apologize?
If they had evidence, sure, yes.
Okay.
I mean, plants literally signify like whenever they're in pain, but that's not my point. I'm saying that virtues, right, are pretty universal, even in what do you mean no?
Rocks have no virtues. The vast majority of space has no virtues. Particles have no virtues. Electrons have no virtues. Neutrinos have no virtues. Baryons have no virtues. Gluons have no virtues. 99.9 dark matter no virtues. Dark energy no virtues. 99.99999999999% of the reality has no virtues.
But even if I grant that a virtue is non-physical, how does that in any way mean that a God exists?
Okay, so so
you're just defining God to be that in which is a virtue.
I'm fine with that. They can define God as virtues and say virtues are non-physical, therefore God.
But then, I mean, can't we kind of like push back a little bit on that and say like, you're just defining God the way that you want to define God?
That's fine. They can define God however they want, as long as
then these gods don't have any real influence on the natural world. There is no manifestation of a physical God or a disembodied mind.
I mean, the sun and moon exist. Saturn, Uranus, they all exist in the physical, and they're all gods to certain polytheists throughout time and history.
But you just said to certain polytheists,
and we're talking about polytheism. That's everything from animals.
Polytheism versus atheism. You right now, as the opposing side, you are supposed to be giving evidence and reasons as to why polytheism exists, and your answer is that some people believe in Poseidon.
No, so what I'm saying is a polytheism is the belief in multiple gods, right?
Yes.
And polytheism spans a tradition as old as we are, potentially.
That's irrelevant as TJump.
No.
Yes or no?
I'm building the conversation. I'm not trying to trap you. I'm literally building. So
yes, we have the sky is blue.
Okay, cool. Right?
Yeah.
So if a polytheist tradition sees a physical thing that is purely physical and goes, yes, that is my God, then that God exists.
No, that's called making stuff up.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that like 99% of the audience listening just that.
If you or anyone else expects us to come in with a 1 + 1 = 2 kind of argument, I mean, that's not going to be what happens, right?
You're just defining God how you want to define God without showing any evidence that this God
so again, let's talk
in reality in some
evidence through rational
detectable way,
through the rational, right? Again, like
how there's nothing rational in anything you've said. Your argument is
so you're calling all of the humanities philosophy irrational.
So why not just say it's philosophy?
Yes, that's what you're saying.
Stop interrupting. Stop interrupting.
Exactly what you're saying.
Your guys' argument is people see things in reality like the sun. They make up feelings and virtues based off of these things. It makes them feel good. Therefore, they're gods. That is bullcrap. It's called making shit up. And that's why I asked the question. Why is your belief any different than people seeing things, making shit up, and it making them feel good? Your claim was, you made some other claims about non-physical stuff. That's where it's actually interesting and relevant to talk about because that differs from science. But if your only claim is gods are, we look at things, we make up fee-fees about them, and we have those fee-fees, that's fine. It's just not what a god actually is. You're just wrong about
so
a
as
god.
an atheist, you're defining a god.
Yes.
Right? Like
yes.
That to me is complete backwards, right? Because you're in a what you exist in is not walking, right? What? It is a non-action, non-belief, right? As a seeker,
no, I'm not a soft atheist. I'm a strong atheist. There are no gods.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
that's what you are taking a non-position.
Well,
right?
No, so like a non-position would be like agnosticism or weak atheism.
No.
Strong atheism.
We're agreeing. We're agreeing with different terms.
Okay.
As an atheist, you do not believe in
gods
anything
do not exist. I believe. Okay. I have a positive belief. Gods do not exist.
Okay.
I actually know as a fact that theists, like personal relationship gods, do not exist. I can say it like with certainty that's true, but as I said in the beginning, deism, I don't even care about deism.
So, but deism would qualify as polytheism as well.
No,
well,
not necessarily. No.
Oh my God.
There can be one deistic God. There can be one deistic God that will be one.
No, but there are polytheists that say all the gods are far away.
I don't care.
They do not enter. Yeah, but I'm saying that includes polytheism. Whether,
yeah, you're debating like so many different things. You even defined a god for us.
Yes.
I mean, well, God. This is so easy for you guys because polytheism can mean whatever you want it to mean. So I should just forfeit right now. TJump and I should just forfeit because you can literally define. So
again,
you can define God however you want to define God.
And I've defined God in a succinct way. I've defined gods in a succinct way.
As fifis.
No. So and part of through the realm of ideals, through virtues, through reasoning, right?
Those are feels. You say I got feelings, therefore
you're literally pointing to a glass and saying, the glass is half empty. That's what? like so.
What?
You are.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't even know what that means.
Of course you would agree.
Yeah, if you agree, tell me what that means. That's really interesting. What does that even mean? I'm pointing at the glass and saying it's half empty. How is my argument?
What you're saying is you're right, but you're wrong.
You guys actually know each other?
No, I'm saying you're not considering you're not considering the perspectives and views on the glass to make the judgment that it's half empty or not.
I still have no idea what that means. Like my view is there are no anthropocentric beings that are non-physical. There are no non-physical objects.
It seems like every time Jordan gets to a point where he's defining something that the audience can understand, TJump jumps in after about 2 seconds.
I can promise you that the audience does not understand. I already I can just say.
I've let you guys talk for like 5-10 minutes at a time. You said gibberish the entire time.
About 30 seconds each time, but yeah.
So okay, but 5 minutes.
Do you believe that gods are disembodied minds?
They can be.
Yeah.
Sure. Why not?
Evidence. So, what evidence do you have that exists?
We've been giving that evidence.
I must have missed it. The genetic fallacy, is that your evidence? People in all cultures develop these independently without talking to each other. Is that your only evidence? Because if it is, I can just genetic fallacy, garbage.
That's one of them.
Garbage bit. Do you have anything else?
That's one of them.
Okay, well, it's a garbage bit.
So
garbage bit we've proven that's wrong. Anything else?
Through the same thinking that we get, exploration, observation, the sciences, understanding our own world, we come to the same conclusions about the divine deity and the expression of nature. And you're denying that we get
I can grant that. So let's grant that. Let's grant that through the same thinking that we get science, we get
virtues
bullshit.
are developed through learning and through practice.
Sure.
Virtues embody religion, and religion aspect embodies virtue.
Let's grant that. Let's say the same thinking that develops science also develops bullshit. Okay. Why do you think the fact that both bullshit and science come from the same system makes them the same? It's called a false equivalence fallacy. Just because they have the same origin doesn't mean
it's not origin. It's in tandem.
What does that mean?
It's not they rely on each other.
No,
I don't know how you're
they
not
don't.
seeing it.
My belief in science,
do.
I'm very familiar with science. I don't have to believe in any bullshit fairies or
you
gods.
Don't.
To
You
do
personally do not.
Correct.
But I'm saying
so they're not in tandem. It's literally what it means.
So the ability to be idealistic, right, is a virtue. So like slingshot.
What?
What does that have to do with what I
So-
said?
Did
It
you
is that
quote that from
through
Deepak
through
Chopra?
having a hold on
That's a good one. High five. High five.
through having an interpersonal connection with the mundane world and understanding that you have a connection with it, right? And the virtues, you get the expression of what something is, and you can explore it, break it down to its most simple part in forms and virtues, right? To understand what it is.
And I
The
can get those
divine
wrong.
part
I can
of
make
that.
up forms of virtues that I just pulled out of my ass, and they're wrong. And so we need some way to differentiate. Are these ideas that I made up correct ideas or incorrect
Okay.
ideas?
And
And just the
then,
fact that I came up with them in some method is
and-
not good.
And so, again, like you're throwing away like the baby with the bathwater on this in a way. So,
Well, okay, wait, couldn't I make up a virtue that just states like it
Potatoes
is a
are
virtue
virtuous.
to not interact with to not change the natural order of things. And then therefore, if I see like a starving child on the side of the road, it would be a virtue to not assist this child because you're not supposed to interfere with the natural world. Couldn't I just define a virtue to be that?
I mean, I would say that that's more like so it gets weird. So one, I would say no, because it's not like a universal feeling. You would still like feel in that decision making. You'd be choosing like a form of stoicism over like your inclination to show love or charity or sacrifice.
Well, what about a psychopath that just doesn't care?
Okay,
Why
so
are
we're
you using the word universal when literally there are humans that exist on the earth that don't care?
okay, and then like that's part of the material. That's what I would say. It's their experience with that virtue, and that can change through whatever you have, through your body, through your mind, through whatever.
Yeah, you
Right?
don't see those same individuals that having the same experiences at the same time. Like it's not a thing.
What?
In development, the two individuals, he's talking about two different types of individuals that were instilled with virtues growing, and then one that wasn't, right?
Well, no, even then, like if someone that has a mental disorder cannot express happiness, right? That's not a defect of virtue. That's something biological, mechanical that is stopping them from experiencing that in the physical. Metaphysical, like happiness, still exists. It just may not be out of their reach.
But they can choose to ignore the starving child. They could be walking home from the supermarket with a bag full of fresh groceries, a roasted chicken and a sub, like a sub.
I would call that
they could choose not to give the food to the starving child. And I could define this as a virtue because I don't believe that interfering with the natural order of things is a good thing. But now
But
what
you
you're
obviously
saying is
feel
that
something
it's a
from it.
coping mechanism. You're coping by saying, inside, deep down inside, I truly, truly, truly want and desire to help the starving child, and yet I go against that instinct because I don't want to interfere. How is this any different than any other human going against their instinct to do certain things that are, quote, virtuous?
Your
Such
rendition,
as sacrifice or something like this.
your ability to memorize like how you've felt in these instances is exactly what we're saying. Like you have obviously felt these emotions. You've obviously this is instilled in your mind.
Well, I was having this thought experiment last night where I was imagining whether or not if I had like my cat and just some random person that I don't even know just in my other hand. And I was thinking to myself, which one would I let go if I was forced to let go of one of them? Like, I'm actually not really sure. I might actually choose my cat because it just means more to me. I mean, is that a problem?
I mean, now we're like on ethics, which is a base of philosophy, but like virtue can play a part of that. What we
But it
get
seems like you're just defining things the way that you want to define them in order to like you're just God is the definition.
It's well
God
within
is the
definition though.
of God.
So with that, right? I would say because I pull from more like Neoplatonism personally. If you want like a personal thing, like in understanding virtue, it is like understanding anything else. It can take practice to fully grasp it, even though you can have innate qualities of it. And this may not be felt the same way through nature and nurture, understanding these phenomena for yourself, like happiness. What is happiness? How do you sustain it? What does happiness mean as an intellectual concept, right? What is the virtue of happiness? So in your example that a person just purposely ignores, like knows something is wrong, but ignores someone on the value of letting the natural order be, I would say that their philosophy would lack understanding of the virtues in general, and even of the natural world in general, because human nature is to give and to adhere to these virtues more often than not. And as you experience it, as you practice these virtues, sacrifice, giving, courage, etc., and you ascend, you go to this higher ideal of oneself that is attributed to gods, what they embody, because they are the highest ideal of something. That can become a methodological religious practice, something that cultures can attach to and emulate as we explore the natural world, as we explore phenomena, things that are not physical, like love, like the experience of love, of charity, of courage, of sacrifice.
It just seems like, honestly, it just seems like, if I were to be honest, it just sounds so childish. You can just think of so many thought experiments where it just like, imagine you're walking into like a forest and there's a child in the forest and there's a pack of wolves attacking the child. Now, would it be the courageous thing to do to interfere and try to fight off the pack of wolves to save the child? What if you have a family at home? What if
that's why it's a virtue, because it's a high ideal. It's bigger than
why
yourself.
would the virtue not be self-preservation?
And more people than not do it.
Support the family that I have at home. If I interfere and try to assist this child by defending from a pack of wolves, I might die, and therefore my family at home will starve.
Yes, courage and sacrifice is a virtue, and if you value.
Would every single person in the world
would they do it? No.
Defend against the pack of wolves to save a child?
If they
Heads up, we'll go into the Q&A in about, let's see, we're at 7:28. We usually go in at about that time, so about a few minutes.
Okay, so if let's say the average person experiences that and they choose, I'm not sure who would say who would go. That's their practice with that virtue of courage, with that virtue of self-sacrifice. And if they have a high ideal, both concepts like tier, they may have a higher chance of throwing themselves through the wolves and do what's possibly the more virtuous thing, right? But let's say that they go home, whether they believe in a god or not, they may experience trauma and regret, survivor's guilt from this. Yep. And that's what the virtues do, because it's unvirtuous to not be sacrificial. Does that mean everyone has to be sacrificial to be a good person? No. No, that's not the claim. And we know these virtues because we can ascend through rational thinking of thought and embody what that perfect phenomena of that virtue would be. And that's like wisdom, courage, sacrifice, love, beauty. This is what the gods represent. This is what we infer by our experiences as being a human, and we can connect with, and we can strive for. And that's not even talking about other phenomena like insight, falling asleep at a temple and gaining new knowledge about something. Happened all the time in Rome, happens now in Hindu temples, all sorts of weird phenomena where people get inspiration directly from an unknown metaphysical possible source.
That's physical. We know what causes that.
Inspiration isn't
okay, then go sleep in a church and have great ideas.
Well, you don't need to sleep in a church.
Now.
We literally know that you can gain knowledge by sleeping because your subconscious is processing information. This is a discovered process in physical reality. You don't need a god for this.
Except we know that more often than not, it's happening within these places.
It's not actually. We know
more often than not, there are people that don't have these experiences. They exist.
Yes, and so again, I was going to go into. I don't want to misspeak. I have some stuff prepared. I would love to have more prepared.
I'm ready to go to the Q&A.
I think didn't James? Sorry, James. You said that we're going to go to questions, or
sorry about that.
We can go as long as you guys are ready to go.
I've ran out of things to say.
I'd like to say that the opposition hasn't been able to explain away. Science doesn't explain away how different groups of humanity across the face of the earth have been able to label the same things with the same fashion. Not just hey, there's a guy that lost an eyeball and he was a combat veteran, now he's a guy of wisdom, and they use that person as something, right? No, what we've not been able to explain away is the fact that humanity across the board, 17 different religions that we know of currently, have been able to place a guy with one eyeball at the top of a pantheon, or near the top of a pantheon, anyways, discounting certain things, near the top of a pantheon, and we're explaining that away with.
Got to go to the Q&A.
It's because they're human. The same reason they have arms and legs. Like, why do all gods have arms and legs and penises?
We're going to jump into it. Zaynova, let me know if I'm pronouncing it right. Thanks for your question. Said, is divine inspiration valid?
No.
It certainly can be.
Shoot,
Yeah.
I was on mute. The first question was Zainovaya. Thank you for your question. Let me know if I pronounce it right. Said, is divine inspiration valid?
Yeah,
So-
it's go ahead, George. Sorry.
No, I would say so. So it depends what you mean by valid, right? And for that, I'd say I would love to have more data on divine inspiration if we could have a way to measure that and quantify it. But yes, valid in the sense that it can happen to a person. A person can experience the phenomena, be inspired from something outside themselves or they perceive outside themselves, and it changed the course of their life through new ideas, exploration of the world, understanding themselves or their place in the world better. So yeah, it's valid. Why wouldn't it be? That's my take.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I would agree that it could be valid, but it doesn't point to a physical God or a disembodied mind that can interfere or affect the natural world in some detectable way.
You got it. This one coming in from, do appreciate it, Atheo Rakatru. Let me know if I pronounced that right. Said, let's bridge the gap. Atheo paganism. In other words, a combination. What's the word for that when you combine words? It starts with a P. Like
No idea.
Fragilina.
Palindrome.
That's it. That might be it. This is atheo paganism. They say combination of atheism and paganism. They say even fills in the issues that TJump had with this debate, or with his debate with Aaron Ra recently. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, there's even a new branch of paganism called neo-paganism that attaches, or my bad, neo-atheism, that attaches paganism with atheism in a way of explaining how the sciences themselves, how each thing is defined could be in relation towards a god or goddess, could be matched with a phenomena, or things that we perceive as a phenomena, and you're just renaming the subject. So yeah, it is something that attempts to bridge that gap.
What was the
You
question?
got it.
about-
Anybody else?
What was the question? Like the first part? It's having something to do with what I talked about in my debate with Aaron.
They said that, yes, that atheo-paganism, a combination of atheism and paganism, I'm not sure what that would imply, that there are many gods or zero gods.
Oh, I could better define that.
It
term,
means that
possibly.
atheists believe in something and their belief
No.
is defined as belief.
Well, we
No,
talked about
I think-
atheo-spiritualism, where most atheists are spiritual. They believe in like ghosts and spirits and
No,
stuff.
Has anyone heard the term atheo-pagan before?
Nope.
Can you raise your hand if you've heard the term?
No, I haven't, never.
I've heard it.
Okay, then can I make myself the resident expert because I've at least heard the term, and I
Well,
could be wrong.
Just to clarify, he mentioned what me and Aaron talked about in our debate, and what we talked about was atheist spiritualism, where most atheists are spiritual. So I think that's what he's referring to.
Okay.
Is that what you're referring to as spiritual atheists?
Jordan.
So no. The way I read that question, I'm fine being wrong, and hopefully not, is that there are atheists, self-proclaimed atheists, and I'm not saying that they're not atheists, believe the importance of archetypes, folklore, like Jungian archetypes that impact their way of experiencing the world. They can identify a phenomenon, be like, dude, that's just the breeze, but I like it, and that reminds me of this. They understand that folklore and mysticism is important for the human experience. And then like for use of meditation, right? Things like that. They want a better connection with the world through the means that their bodies like kind of inclinate to, and they vibe with it. But they would say there are no gods. This is just my brain playing tricks on me, etc. But they vibe with it. They're fine with that experiencing, being enthralled in it.
Is that acceptable to you, Tom?
It has nothing to do with anything me and Aaron talked about, but so I would guess that's not what he's talking about. I guess he's talking about
atheists experience things.
We all
Yes.
experience things.
Atheists experience things. Yes.
This one coming in from, by the way, the word was portmanteau when you combine two words like that. 60-second skeptic says, if we have two jars, one filled with 10,000 gods and one with nothing inside, how do we tell which jar is true?
Has the gods in it.
Oh,
That
that's
was
a tough
like the
one.
whole point of the debate, which I feel like we never really got to that.
I'm not sure. I'm honestly, I don't know how to answer that question. I'd have to put more thought into it personally.
Gotcha. This one from the ungoogleable man says, how is slapping the label of God on quote unquote virtues any different from slapping it on a coffee cup and saying, since the cup exists, God exists?
I mean, Neoplatonism would agree through the emancipation of like forms, because there is an ideal like thought through the one where ideas are and they live, but live by exist, and we kind of like pull from. That's why every culture, despite talking to each other, has an axe. It's because the form matters. Our experience with the material matters. There is a divine idea of an axe. So yeah, I would say either way, you could work your way up to a God belief by saying that things exist or fit similar, and there may be an ideal thing to this, and the gods are a part of that process.
And notice how he said you can work your way up to a God belief. He didn't say that you can work your way up to a God. Very important distinction.
I mean, a lot of people start with God by a question, and then automatically there's an answer. But yeah,
That wasn't my experience. But yeah, sorry.
No problem. This one from Matt Lee says, TJump has no beard. Debate lost. Tom, it's true. You've always been clean shaved. It's that handsome, if you have a handsome face, you can't cover it up. So no offense to all three of you other guys. but this one coming in from Bubblegum Gun says, the polytheist, I think they mean for both of you. They say, it is I, the CEO of Polytheism. Bubblegum is their name. They say, contact me
They're
after
really
the
important.
show so I may impart the knowledge of polytheism onto you all. I'm on standing for truth. Do you guys know of this Bubblegum Gun fellow?
He sounds important if he's the CEO of Polytheism.
He's in the comments a lot.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. So this one from a perfect error says the polytheists misunderstood TJump when he said, quote, we find anchoring biases across all societies, unquote. They interpreted that as some sort of zeitgeist thing.
I mean, it's possible.
Well, so
Yeah,
my
it's-
argument was that an anchoring bias is something that has occurred in all societies, independent of them talking to one another. It's something that's ingrained in everyone, everywhere, independent of culture, just like you think virtues are. And so if you think that virtues are some kind of metaphysical, non-physical thing in the universe, then so is anchoring bias. But if we agree with science and anchoring bias is just a biological product of the brain to support evolution, then we can just conclude that virtues are as well, and there's no non-physical aspects to them.
See, I think that's just Occam's razor kind of being used, right? Because like, oh, everyone makes an axe, therefore axes are useful, right? Because that'd be an anchoring bias of an invention of an axe. Every culture has an axe, right?
No,
or most do. Or
Anchor,
even if you
anchoring
say like,
bias is a fallacy. It's a logical fallacy. It has nothing to do with axes.
no, you're misunderstanding. So if every culture has an idea, or a group of cultures have an idea separate from one each other that are the same, you can attribute this bias through the simple fact that humans could develop similar ideas because we're all similar, right? Through the idea of like forms and virtues, that goes through a different narrative of exploring the natural universe, coming to the same properties something has, understanding it in its usefulness and its potential. And then that rationally leads up through philosophy and reasoning of deity or phenomena that has these same attributes.
100%. And also what Jordan said in the opening.
So yeah, it's fine. Anchoring bias, I think, is a good scientific view of the world. Sure, lots of different groups can come up with the same conclusion independent of each other. But I would also say that's quite the phenomena that we did that, and that's also worth exploring more in depth.
This one coming in from, do appreciate it. Back Par Us says, James, interview a solipsist next time. Thanks for that idea. You guys ever heard the joke about solipsism from Alvin Plantinga?
I haven't.
Let's hear it.
I'll tell it at the end. This one from Eddie Dean says, is the act of vaping virtuous? Is there a god of vaping?
No.
I mean, there's pleasure if you get pleasure from it.
True.
Wait. Okay, you two are disagreeing on this?
You two disagreed a lot. I think you guys argued amongst each other as much as
I'm just curious
like we
if
argued.
you're disagreeing.
I'll let you give your rationale. We came to an agreement because I just bridged the gap. So God of vaping,
Yeah.
Probably not. I don't know. We could have just found her or him. Sure, why not? But God of pleasure, because pleasure is a virtue as well. It's something universally loved. We all love to feel good, right? And so like hedonism, or just like Aphrodite, Venus, whatever aspects of pleasure exist. So therefore, vape for Venus if it gives you pleasure. There's physical consequence to that, sure, but so it's existing. So why not?
Juicy.
Yeah, and I was trying to give a funny answer there as well, Dustin. Like, no, like don't do it, kids.
Are jokes metaphysical?
We had an early one from, quote, Satan did nothing wrong is their username. They say, question for the Polytheists. How do you know Gandalf isn't spiritual? How can we check?
Actually, it's a good question because The Lord of the Rings was written while J.R.R. was in the trenches of World War II. So maybe there's actually a plausible possibility that Tolkien stated that Gandalf, like in his belief system, possible, probably not probable, stated that Gandalf might be a symbolism of something. I mean, he did go from gray to white. There's actually something inside of that's plausible, but probably not probable.
Yeah, if I could expand too, again, we're not literalists, so like lore has a place in understanding other people's experiences with this phenomenon. So like the Poetic Edda or the Iliad or whatever the case may be, in identifying these characteristics. So Gandalf does exude certain characteristics, which I said before, like courage, sacrifice, wisdom. So you can argue there's a spiritual component to him, but that's the same thing with any character, folklore, whatever you want to call it, that exhibits idealistic characteristics. I say that we have the marriage as the authentic audience to know that, yeah, Gandalf's like a dude that exists for a certain series. Just like the polytheists of Rome understood, like, yeah, what I just said, the gods represent these virtues that are do exist in our mundane world now as we understand them. So Venus is love, and we can connect to love through Venus, for example. They wouldn't go, all the gods are on Olympus. That's my meaning of that.
Juicy. Any last thoughts, folks, gentlemen? Otherwise,
it seems as if the opposing side was not able to provide any definition or evidence for multiple gods that manifest in reality in physical ways.
We have every temple.
Back the debate at this point,
hold on
or
one
are we
sec.
talking about the question?
One last question I missed, and this actually it's in a perfect alignment with what Dustin just said. So I'll give you guys a chance to respond. I want to read this. Black Eye Fly said, how many gods exist, and how do you know that's the right number?
I don't know. I wouldn't give a number. I would say that per tradition, per group, per culture, I don't know how many virtues there are. I don't know how many gods. I don't know how they would name their gods and goddesses. And therefore, I wouldn't give a number at all.
Yeah, that's where you get to like cultural perceptions of the ideal, which through, I think, Neoplatonism, like Plotinus, if you want some recommended reading, read the Aeneid of Plotinus. Very, very interesting, to the very least. Also, the Agrippa 4 rules of occult, or 4 books of occult philosophy, are very good in breaking down the core ideas that make up my current exploration into the divine. But essentially, the material world is messy. It's not perfect, of course. Ideals and virtues exist within it. So some cultures may identify heavily with some aspects than others, just through the material not being perfect. It's not ideal. That's why we look towards the ideal. We're full of inspiration and imagination and really want this connectivity to things that are idealistic that we can see and perceive within our own world. That like we want to get to the heavens, so we go to the moon, right? We have this ideal that we want to explore space and the heavens, and we claw our way there, believing that we can, and experiencing the world and understanding the phenomena that can help us get there through the virtues of exploration, of wisdom, of understanding the natural world. These things lead us there.
You got it. Any last thoughts? Okay, I'll quick tell you, I haven't told this joke in a long time, but so I will probably butcher it, but I'm going to give it a shot. So Elvin Plantinga told this joke, and he said, there was once a philosophy, so this is the solipsist joke. He said, there was once a philosophy professor who was visiting a university, and in particular, the philosophy department there. And when he arrived, he found out that there was one of the philosophers there was a solipsist. And he says, in other words, if anybody, folks, by the way, because there are a couple hundred people watching, if you don't know what a solipsist is in philosophy, it's this idea that you're the only one that exists. Your experience is real, but like everybody else, like, for example, TJump and Dustin and just everybody, even your own mom or dad, they all aren't actually real. They're just kind of figments of your experience. Eddie Dean, thanks for your last minute super chat, said, I'll get back to the joke. They say, so is everyone who believes in different gods going to their own separate afterlives, polytheists?
I think that in general, most cultures have came to generally the same ideologies. How you get there may be a little different, but generally across planet Earth, this beautiful planet, in general, when you weigh the amount of different polytheistic faiths versus those versus the opposition, generally speaking, far more of them have generally the same concept of the afterlife more so than not.
And I would say, yeah, so yeah, we go back to like ideals, right? So a few things are
like basically you actually don't know the answer to the question.
That would be correct, yeah.
So
okay, I just wanted to, like, if you just wanted to say those words before you go and talk about more of what you don't know, that was just,
I wish TJump would have let you talk more during the debate.
Just to get it out there, just to start with, I don't actually know, but, and then, I
mean, I think we've been pretty intellectually honest like this entire time. Because like he completed his thought. If we could complete our thoughts more, you would have a more defined idea of what we're talking about through this entire thing. On afterlife, so I would say that we are again ideals. Like we have ideals of what like an afterlife could be. I personally would say that in the philosophy that leads us to things like the atom, like Neoplatonism, there's not a lot of talk of an afterlife. It's about the theory of religion, theory of philosophy, theory of virtues, theory of the gods, and not so much an interpersonal afterlife. And I would say that if you're living this life looking forward to an afterlife, make this one a good one, and you'll have what you'll need in the next one if there is one. On the bona fide view of an afterlife, I don't know. I'll just live a good life here and be prepared in whatever way. I don't know.
Juicy. So on to the solipsist joke. As I mentioned, the philosophy professor got to this philosophy department, and he found out, he said, there's really a solipsist here? And he said, yeah, he's a professional philosopher. He's got his PhD, and he's a solipsist. And so he said, well, could I meet him? And they said, yeah, sure. And so he went in and he met the philosopher who was a solipsist, and they had a good conversation. And as he left, the other faculty who had brought them to Fred, the solipsist, said, yeah, well, we all take special care of Fred here, because if he goes, we all go.
That's good. I like that.
It is not my joke. That was Alvin playing us, but
that's good. A good one. That's fun though.
It is. But we do want to say, folks, our guests are linked in the description. If you would like to hear more of their views, you certainly can. As you can see at the bottom right of your screen, learn more about your guests' views from their links in the description box below. That includes at the podcast. So if you're listening via the podcast, as folks, I don't know if you know this, but 100% of our debates end up on the podcast, usually within 24 hours of them being live on YouTube. And we put our guest links there. in the podcast episode description as well. One last from the live chat. Black Eye Fly says, thanks for hosting this debate and for all the work you do. Thanks so much for your kind words. All credit to the speakers. They are the lifeblood of the channel. And I saw one, Art V said, I had thought about solipsism when I was a kid. It's funny, there's some research on how kids have thought through a lot of these like really way more complex ideas philosophically than you'd expect. So for example, like the matrix idea too, which is different from solipsism, but nonetheless, it's interesting, kind of a philosophy type thing. But we want to say thank you to our guests. It's been a true pleasure to have you guys here tonight.
Thanks, everybody.
No, thank you for having me. Absolutely.
I'm going to be back.
Thanks for Modern Day Debate.
My pleasure. And those of you in the audience, stick around. I'm going to be back in just a moment as I wish the guests well. So stick around and I'll let you know about upcoming debates here on Modern Day Debate. Be right back in just a moment. All right, we're backstage. Thanks, guys. It's been a true pleasure.
Hey, thanks, James. Thank you so much, man.
My
Hopefully
pleasure.
we made this a little more fiery than the last one.
That was good. We've never gotten to do polytheism.
I would say this was quite the juicy debate for the viewers. Yes, I'm sure they were very entertained.
Oh yeah.
I hope